I had an interesting question the other day. It's basically, how do you make an 808 kick? Or one of those deep subby tech house bass kicks? You'd think it'd be pretty easy. Sort of is, but then if you wanted to imitate a certain one from a song, then you listen to the song and there's like, hey, there's a little bit more to it into that. All right, well, I got you covered here. I'm going to do the best I can. I'm going to try to take apart this one song, see if I can at least get it going for you and help you out. So first things first, we want to make the 808 kick part. And that's really easy. You can see I already have it up here in this setting here. If you just want to copy it down and just put it to what you want, you can copy this down. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to start from scratch, and I'm going to show you the steps that I did to make it. So let's just go ahead and just create a new instrument. Software instrument. Okay. Good. And then let's do an ES2. Yes, there we go. Bring that guy over here. All right, so from the beginning, it's going to look like this, and it's probably going to sound like this too. And it's just you're using your FM, and it's right in the middle. Nothing's engaged. So we could work from this, but what I like to do is I have a setting in here. I got initialize reset. I went in, I just kind of reset all this. It's just pretty much reset everything to, and then it should sound like this. Yeah. Now that's a good reset sound. You just basically your standard waveform right here, slow wave. So you can copy this settings right here, and then what you do is you just go ahead and you just save as default, or save as, what I did is just initialize reset, initialize rest. It's actually reset, but you know what I mean. First things first, we want to put it on mono because it's going to be a bass. So you just click that little check mark right there. Your voices, we want to put it all the way down to one voice because we're not really going to use more than one voice for a sub bass. It's just going to be a one. There you go. There only could be one. Yes. We want to switch this guy all the way down to a sine. It says sax, but just right click on it. Go all the way up to 00, sine. There we go. That's what we want. And then leave this guy all the way up at the corner at 100%. And these two, you don't even have to mess with them. The analog, we're going to up the analog over here. So what this does here is it kind of mimics old analog synths. And the old analog synths, they just weren't really that stable. And so it kind of has a little bit of an algorithm to it, gives it a little instability. It gives a little bit of warmness when you use this guy. So I like to use it. So basically what this analog does is it's kind of like the old analog synthesizers. It kind of gives it a deviation. And what it does is it kind of pitches all the oscillators in here a little bit randomly, and it kind of detunes them a little bit too. For example, if the analog detuning is set around 20% and all three oscillators are used, it'll randomly drift by 20%. Do it something like that. And so it kind of gives it a little bit of an old school feel. It's just a little something, There's a little bit of spice to your cooking, if that makes sense. Especially for this type of kick sound that we're going to do. We want to make sure our cutoff's right there. Both cutoffs are good. Low. Make sure this is all the way down. Our resonance, we could probably put it like that. We could probably take our fat off. We won't need that. Low is on. There we go. That's good. Our sine level. All right, here's the next one we're going to use. This kind of goes along with the analog feel. It allows a sine wave at the frequency of oscillator 1 right here to be mixed directly into the dynamic stage or independent of the filters. So if you have a filter that's if it's filtered away the basic partial tone of oscillator 1 with a high pass filter, you can reconstitute it with this parameter. It's another thing that adds to the spice of the kick. say, like, for example, in cases where oscillator 1 is a frequency modulated by oscillator 2, and you turned up the FM with the waveform selector, only the pure sine wave is mixed into the dynamic section, not the distorted FM waveform, if that kind of makes sense. So it's kind of like another thing to where you can have two sounds coming in, and you can have one that's unaltered that's coming out and another one that's distorted, and you can kind of mix the two. And note, the sine level knob is useful for adding warmth and a fat bass quality to the sound. Extra body can be added to the thin sounds with this function. It's really good. It's another function to give you that extra something, the extra warmth. Same thing as this one over here, but a little bit different. So then the next step we're going to do here is we're going to crank up the distortion a little bit because we want to add a little grittiness to our sound. And then let's go ahead and just hear what it sounds like right now. It's getting there, and it needs a little bit more help. So let's go ahead and let's mess with the attack. Since it's going to be a kick sound, we're going to have a nice short attack. We're going to take the decay, probably move the decay up, maybe something like that. The stain is going to be full. Release, we're going to have a little bit of a long release going on right here. Something like that, so it sounds like this. Something like that. And then maybe want to up the attack right there and maybe get rid of the clickiness. But that's up to you if you want it. I kind of like the clickiness. And then the major thing that we're going to do is we're going to add an Lfo envelope. So we're going to go here to this one right here. We're going to enable this one, and we're going to change this to pitch 1, 2, and 3. And then our source is going to be envelope 1. And so this is going to be our envelope right here, and this is going to affect our pitch. So what we want to do then is we're going to leave this down at the bottom. And then this one right here is going to control our pitch. So we want this down just a little low. Make sure this knob right here is jacked all the way up, and this is off. So then when we hit our kick, it's going to sound like this. See? That's cool. So then, like if we had it like way up like this, it's going to sound weird. Yeah, like a laser. Woo! So we don't want it to sound like a laser. We want it kind of like down low, like 11. All right, so there we go. And then when you get the lower notes, it sounds kind of cool. It gives that little clickiness to the sound. So I think we're almost there. There was maybe a little bit more. Maybe we wanted to add a little brightness to the sound. Jack that all the way up. See what that sounds like. That's up to you if you want that. I don't really notice that much. Maybe I'll just leave it like in the middle. We can give it some chorus sound. Maybe a little bit like this. This sounds kind of cool. That sounds kind of neat. If it's off. So the chorus kind of gives it a little bit of a wideness to the sound. So you can leave that on, or I kind of like it in the middle. So also jack this up. I forgot to tell you, we could put this like here and then put on the chorus. See what that sounds like now. But I don't really like it. But you could play with that. That's just something you could play with. Or you could use the phaser. Phaser's kind of cool. But, just different things you can do with it. The other cool thing you could do with this is you could change it to 2 voices and then turn on the unison. And then make sure you turn down your volume a little bit. And this sounds kind of cool too. Change it off, see what it sounds like now. So that's another thing you can do to give it a little bit of a wide sound. But the way I want it. I just want it in the middle. Got a really good kick sound going on. Just a couple of settings, really simple, really fast. So we go ahead and just save as. We could save it as, 808 kick drum, or you could just put like pitch drum or whatever you want to save it as. I already got mine, and I'm going to cancel it. So that's what that is. So we went over that. So I'm going to go ahead and delete that one because that one was just for example. Bring this guy over here, and this is the one that I have now, and it sounds like this. And you'll notice that I have my thing set at 65. I have mine a little bit higher. So because the reason why I have it a little bit higher is like when I hit the low notes, it sounds a little bit more noticeable. I really like that. That just sounds really cool. All right. And then I have my sine level set to 0.084. My volume down as, -2. Distortion. You could probably up that, get a little more grittiness. Mono. 2 voices. We probably won't need that. Oh, that's so cool. Analog set port 094. Let's go ahead and close that out. Question of the day was how do you make that kick sound? Well, that's how you did it. What does it sound like when you put it to a deep tech house song like this one? So what I did is I extracted this, bounced it out, and created a groove from it, from the EXS24. And here's the groove I created. You could say and you'll notice that some of these are off a little bit because it's a deep, funky tech house groove. So you're gonna definitely get some nice swing into it. This is how I get a groove from an audio file. So what I do is first I duplicate the file. Go ahead and just duplicate the track, drop it down. So that way I have the original up here. I don't have to mess with it. And then the other thing I do is I take a tempo meter, BPM meter. It's right here. You can find it. You go in metering BPM. And I'll go in and I'll just count. I'll just look at it. It looks like this. And if we solo with this, I got to turn it on first. Yeah, 123. So what we do is then we go here and up at the top here and we change our setting to 123. And then what I do is I go ahead and I try to line just line it up. Doesn't have to be exact, but I just kind of line it up with the, make sure these are lined up with the grid lines. Just a little bit. I'm not that worried because I'm not going to do a remix on it or anything like that. I just wanted to just get it lined up so that way when I start doing the groove template, I can sort of match it up and eye it out and just kind of see if it's matching up. So that's why I do that. So to extract the groove or get the groove, you could do something like this. You could go on your thing and go configure track header, and then you could go in and you could do groove track. Select that. And then once that's selected, then you see this little star, highlight it, it comes with a star. Once you hit the star here, and then you go ahead and check this, or check your MIDI thing, and it will actually follow the groove from where the star is, like that. So it actually follows the groove, and it actually automatically quantizes it to the groove of this. But I don't really like it. Son of a bitch. Okay. Copy it down, and then what I do is once you get it aligned to the grid, then you just kind of check this little box here, the second one, then just hit your command key and just cut it right there, and then cut right there. Just delete the rest. And then what you'll probably have to do is, because the EXS only goes to so many, probably do like 4 bars or something like that. I would just do it at like 4 bars. Like that. And then you just right click on the one that on the region. You need to do convert to new sampler track. If it's not up in the top here, you just go down here to convert, and then convert to new sampler track. And then what it does, you just pick transient markers, and you just name it to, whatever. And I do start with C0, go all the way up to C6. I'm going to go ahead and hit cancel. But the cool thing about this is basically record the groove for you, but it'll make this long line. And what I do is I just go ahead and I just hear it where, because it's going to duplicate, the same drum pattern is going to be repeat over and over again. So I just go in and I just play with it, and I just find the one that I like, and I just drop it down, to match the one that I like, because I may hear it a couple times. So if that makes sense. So that's kind of like what I did there. I'll link in a video on how I do this in full, because I've done this before, and I've talked about it in greater detail, and I don't want to go into it right now. But it's a little bit tedious than just trying to extract the groove the other way, but I like it better because what I could do is I could take this MIDI template and I can change it around. I can do whatever I want with it and have more control this way. So that's what I do there. That's the groove. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to probably put this up on blend.io or splice.com and for you guys to grab so you guys can have it and mess around with it. All right, so here we go. So sounds kind of groovy, sounds nice, sounds great. So then what happens if we try to introduce that kick? So here's the kick. Here it is right there. This one right here. So also notice that I have my kick set on G sharp. I had to go in and figure out what the tune of the song was, or the tune of the kick was from that song that I'm trying to emulate. That's very important. And even though it says it's on E in here, it's actually tuned to the key of G sharp, sort of, kind of. It had a bunch of layers inside the kick, so you had like a little bit of subbiness, and you also have a little bit of kick going on. So that's the best I could hear it was G sharp that was going on. So make this a little bit easier for you to see. So there you go. Let's go ahead and just blot out this one, and let's see what it sounds like now. 808 sub that we just created. Wow, I think I like that one a lot better than the way it's sounding, because you're getting this ducking sound that every time the 808 comes in. It just sounds really cool. Now, what I did is I actually found a deep house kit that sort of had the same soft kick sound that this one right here was sounding. You kind of hear it has that little bit of grittiness at the end. So if we go over here to the deep house kick, listen to that one. It's a little bit, almost similar. I mean, I didn't really have that much time to go through all the kicks and kind of listen to them, but I imagine you could probably find a good kick with some grittiness and then layer it with the 808, and it'll probably sound pretty decent. So if we go ahead and just play just the kicks by itself. And also notice that I put an EQ to take out some of the sub end on the deep house kick so it can fit in a little better. And then when we put them all together, it should sound like this. Yeah, so it's just one of these things where you kind of have to layer some kicks and an 808 and a sub all together at the same time, kind of give that sound that they got. Or you could just sample it like what I did and then put it in Ultra Beat, and there you go, and call it a day. This is kind of how the process that I did it. I hope you find it helpful. Enjoy, and remember, stay groovy, my friends. Stay groovy.